How's it going, David from Comic Book Investments? So you may or may not heard that CBCS Comics is owned by Beckett, and now they have a new owner that owns them. But it's really not quite like that. There's a lot going on. Every time I dig into this thing, it just gets weirder and weirder. So obviously, you may or may not know that the CEO, a previous CEO of Beckett, is going to prison for $2 billion in insurance fraud. But you also may or may not know that the CEO before that is suing Beckett. So this Beckett's CEO before that is also suing Beckett because they were supposed to pay him like $15 million when he signed a termination agreement, but they only paid him barely any of it. And then on top of that, there's another investigation of $2 million in fraud, stolen cards from Beckett. So it's just lots of lawsuits, lots of things going on. I'm going to try to break this down, but there's just way too much to unpack here. Some people are talking about just how the CEO is going to jail for fraud, but they missed this other one where there's another lawsuit that's going on with them. Actually, two other ones. One with stolen cards and for $2 million, and another one where their old CEO is suing them because they're like, hey, you were supposed to pay me when I left, and you never did. So, and on top of that, the company that they the company they made to basically be their umbrella company was just made and literally just has them and a couple of the like random card shop type things in them under the umbrella. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure you just made this because you want to save face, like because your current CEO, or he's gone now, is going to jail for billions of dollars in insurance fraud. It's a whole new thing. And on top of that, people are talking about, it's like, oh, well, they're going to get all this money. Influx of money, and maybe CBCS and Beckett will actually start doing something great. No, they're not going. They're not getting an influx of money unless they literally take it out as a loan. This new company is not a new company coming in and putting in money. It's just a new umbrella company that gathers up some of these other random companies to basically say like, hey, we're moving on from our old CEO. It's all just smoke and mirrors. And on top of that, you should see how many cards that Beckett grades compared to CBCS or to PSA. It is astoundingly small. They are so small. When I show you this graph of just how small Beckett is compared to these other giants, it's astounding. And I don't think they're going to last long. I'm sorry, but there's no way that Beckett and CBCS are going to be around much longer. There's no way. There's no way. And I'll go into more on that, but let's just look at what's going on. Okay, so let's go into the first bit of news. All right, here is CEO Beckett's parent company pleads guilty in insurance fraud. I'm not going to go through every little bit, but this guy right here, Greg Lindenberg, he owns Beckett Media. He just pled guilty to $2 billion in fraud. Now, the $2 billion, quite a lot. Quite a lot. Now, he's facing up to 5 to 10 years in prison, and he was a longtime CEO of Global Growth. Now, you're probably thinking, what is Global Growth? Well, that is the umbrella company that keeps Beckett and all of its subsidiaries in there. It's like the top company. It's like us. We're called Wayne Industries, but one of our companies is called Collectors Comics. You know, this top company, or not quite like that, but they're an umbrella company, oversees everything. So this is the chairman or CEO was until he's going to jail. So there's that. There's a lot of things going on. Whatever. I don't know exactly what he did for insurance fraud, but he's basically not a good person. $2 billion. Now we also have this one. This one, investigation in a $2 million card theft continuing, and former CEO of Beckett is now suing them. So here's the first one. Here's the $2 million. $2 million of theft was concluded. Someone stole a bunch of boxes and all this kind of stuff, blah, 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 blah. So that's going on. That's a lawsuit. Then we have down here the former CEO of Beckett is Sandeep Dua. Oh, I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. And his parent company, he's suing the company and his parent company, Global Growth. Over millions of dollars he said he was owed after he signed a termination agreement in March of 2022. So he basically said he was owed, he was supposed to generate 6 payments, totaling him $12 million. So they said, we don't want you as CEO anymore. We want you to sign this termination agreement. And he said, okay, you owe me $15 million. They agreed to it. This is Global Growth, which is Beckett. They signed it and they said, yes, we'll give you $15 million in 6 payments. And they have failed to pay him $5.7 million. He also believes Global Growth didn't intend to pay him an additional $3.1 million he said he was owed in June of next year. So it looks like $8.8 million they still owe him of that 12. So they barely paid him anything at all. So that is an ongoing lawsuit that is going on currently. And there's another article about some jersey or something. So we got those lawsuits going on. So let's look at this new company, Collectivus Holdings. It's like Festivus. Holding unveiled as the new parent company to Beckett, Dragon Shield, and Southern Hobby. So you're like, what is Collective? I thought at first this was like a new company and they're going to bring in Beckett. No. Home of the hobby of premium brands, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? Was established as the umbrella company for Beckett, Multimedia and Collectibles, Dragon Shield, and Southern Hobby Distributions. It was literally made to just put Beckett and these other 2 companies under it. I thought it was just some other company that was like, oh, we're gathering up all these collectible companies. No. It was made just for this. Made just for this. And you might be thinking, okay, we know what Beckett is, the great cards, comics, and all that kind of stuff. CBCS is underneath Beckett. What are these other companies? What is Southern Hobby Distribution? They are a distribution thing. That's all they do. So similar to Diamond with comic books. So they have all these supplies and they bring them to card and comic shops. How many customers and how big they are. It looks like, what is this? They have 4 distribution centers. So maybe they're pretty big. I don't know. Well, what's the other one? Dragon Shield. Dragon Shield makes sleeves, card sleeves. This site just looks very small and I don't know. Not very big. I imagine Beckett is the biggest, but Beckett's not even that big. I'll get into exactly how big Beckett really is. So they basically made this company, I think, just to say, oh, that old CEO that was part of Global Growth, oh, we're not part of that anymore. We're part of Collectivus. And now we're the ones that are overseeing Beckett. I think they want to sever ties with all of that. Probably had to do with the lawsuits, and they were probably forced to, probably because of all the insurance fraud and all that kind of stuff. There's probably a lot of headache, probably a lot of lawyer stuff going on. That's why. So it's not a real new company with new money coming in. And then if we look up, there's this thing called GemRate. If you go to GemRate, he's on Instagram. And this basically tells you how many of each thing is being sold. So let me move me out of the way. Okay, here we go. So this is for October of 2024. PSA graded a total of 1.5 million cards. Now, these are for cards. Basketball, baseball, Pokemon, whatever. They don't have one for comics. CGC cards, 200,000. SGC cards, 165. Beckett, only 50,000. 50,000, that is it. Now, you may or may not know this, but PSA bought SGC. So they were number 1, and they bought the number 3 spot. So you can really just add that number into PSA. So PSA is really probably at, an extra 200,000-ish, somewhere around there. So 1.6, 1.7, I don't know, somewhere around there. And that is where they are at. And Beckett is way, 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 way down. 50,000. Teeny tiny. And if you look over the year-over-year change, CGC cards are down from October 2023 to October 2024, but Beckett is down 33%. Now, let's see. Let's go through here. This is more of a breakdown, but let's look at this graph. If you look at this graph, if you look down, you can barely see it, but if you look at, there's Beckett. And this goes back month over month for the last 2 years, or a little further than that, almost 3 years, from the beginning of 2022. Look at PSA's growth over time. For over basically 3 years, look at it, just growing steadily. More and more cards graded every single month. Look at SGC and CGC way down here. Not as much growth, but they're still growing. Look at Beckett's growth. They are going down. They are going down. That little graph down there literally started higher 3 years ago than it did today. So they are sinking. They are sinking, sinking, down, down, down. They're not doing anything. PSA growing like crazy. I'm sorry, but so what is this all going to lead to? So Beckett and CBCS are not getting a bunch more money unless they find either a buyer or an investor or they take out a loan. This is not going to do anything for them. They're already a sinking ship. Already. I'm telling you right here. CBCS, Beckett, all that. They're already a sinking ship. They're not going to do... They're just going to keep on going down more and more and more. And here's the thing. Even if they got a massive influx of money, that is not going to help them because their brand is already ruined. I heard this quote. You only get one time to make a first impression. So they already made their first impression. It doesn't matter if they have all this money. They've been around for like 10 years. I'm talking about CBCS. All this money given into them. They really can't command any value on the secondary market. So they'll never... Their best bet is literally to shut down, start up a brand new company. You can use the same facility and same... This is like, oh, it's like a new company and rebrand themselves, from beginning to end because they already have their image of what's going on. Same with Beckett. They already have their image. It's clear. The market has decided. They've existed long enough to know whatever they have is not a product that people want. Think about this. They keep going down, and they're only at 50,000 a month. That's Beckett, which is massively bigger than CBCS. CBCS is probably like 10,000 comics or less than that a month. And once PSA comes into comics, CBCS is just going to get even smaller and smaller and smaller. Eventually get too small where it's not even worth it anymore for the parent company, and they'll maybe spin them off or something like that. Maybe the people that work there will go get a job at PSA. But it's not looking good for them. I don't see a way that they can turn it around. Adding these lawsuits, everything going on with them, it's not helping them. It's not helping their image. Their best bet is like maybe turn around and try to sell it to someone. I don't know who would want it. But yeah, especially since they've had no growth over the last 2 years, CBCS and Beckett. So yeah, it's not really looking good for them. And I think if something drastically doesn't happen, this was drastically bad for them, but drastically good, I don't think they'll exist in like 2 years, 3 years. Both CBCS and Beckett as a whole. I really don't think that CBCS can withstand PSA coming into the market. I really just don't think there's enough for two big players because they will capture CBCS, like a percentage of them, and that might just be enough to, be the final straw that broke the camel's back for CBCS. As far as Beckett, you look at that graph, PSA just keeps on getting higher and higher, and Beckett keeps on getting lower and lower. And you had CGC cards come in the mix not too many years ago. They're not brand new, but they're slowly gaining, slowly getting bigger. So that's just going to eat away at Beckett's market share as well. Yeah, I just don't see enough for these two big players, CGC and PSA, with Beckett trying to exist in there. That's it. Let me know your opinion.